Now, over the last year, retail investors have set their sights on household names like AMC, Bed Bath & Beyond, and GameStop, as you know. But there's a new commodity in town, uranium. A small but devoted group of investors are investing in the metal commodity that makes nuclear power possible. Joining us now with more details, Cheddar reporter Alex Vucolo. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
Now, let's start off with a brief history on how uranium got into its last bear cycle.
Hey, Ken. So basically, the Fukushima nuclear disaster may seem like a long time ago now, but in the nuclear industry, 10 years is not a very long time at all. And in many ways, it's still reeling from what happened there. There was a wave of plant closures across the world in countries like Germany and Italy. And there was a general sentiment that nuclear was a thing of the past. All of this dragged down the price of uranium to historic lows by the middle of the decade and have more or less stuck there ever since until very recently.
So that leads us to this uranium thesis. Can you give us more background on what that is?
So the basic argument goes that the current uranium prices are actually below production costs. So there's no real incentive to produce. This might not be a problem if nuclear was really going away, but in reality, it's been rapidly growing in Asia while remaining flat to slightly declining in North America and Europe. So even the most conservative estimates of growths, these investors are arguing that uranium production is going to have to amp up to meet demand from nuclear plants. And what that means is that prices need to rise as well. That's the core of the uranium thesis. And then it started to bear out in 2020 when the price of uranium doubled from $17 per pound to $32 per pound currently. And many of these investors believe there's still a lot of runway to go.
So how has this theory turned into a broader interest in nuclear power? Are the plant closures really impacting the investor's case, or is it something else?
So this began to, according to a lot of these investors, this began to turn into a broader appeal for nuclear power about 2 years ago when a lot of these funds that were kind of following the uranium thesis popped up. That what they kind of point to is the Paris Climate Agreement, which in their view really put rubber to the road when it came to meeting emissions deadlines, in which, a lot of people had to start taking seriously, how are we going to actually get there? As for how the recent closures in the U.S., like Indian Point in New York, and the possible closures in Illinois, I think the investors and hedge funds that are pushing the uranium thesis argue that this is really this is small change, I guess you could say. They're taking a bigger picture view of nuclear. And in their view, it's not something that states and countries are going to be able to ignore if they're serious about meeting climate change goals.